Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. It's already Monday. The week snuck up on me. Did it sneak up on you too, Kels?
Yeah.
Yeah,
My weeks are always off though because I work in a restaurant, so my
right.
weekends are my weekend this week was Wednesday, Thursday. That was my
Okay,
weekend. So
gotcha.
my days are just always off.
Yeah, no, I agree. So this week we have another episode of What If to talk about, as you see by the thumbnail. But there's also a lot of other Marvel shit going on that we also have to talk about. First, on a more somber note, the day we're recording this, the 28th of August, you guys will see this on the 30th, but the 28th of August is the 1 year anniversary of Chadwick Boseman's death. So we just wanted to, shout out to Chadwick's family, his friends, all his fans. Of course, all of you watching are must be fans of his if you're watching this. I don't know why you'd be watching a Marvel podcast if you're not a fan of Chadwick.
Yeah.
That's just dumb. But if you're not, you're not. But yeah, we're thinking of y'all. It's tough, but we talked a lot about him last week with the episode that he was in, and it was a beautiful tribute to him. Any words on that, Kelsey, just about him and his legacy?
I just can't believe it's been a year. I
I know.
remember exactly where I was when you texted me that he had passed, and I was
Crazy.
I was hoping so badly that it was just a rumor, that it was untrue,
Yeah.
and it's just so unfortunate because I can't imagine that anyone who's into the Marvel universe is not a fan of his, just
Yeah.
because he's just so charismatic in his character in his life.
Yeah, I
It
watched Black
was
Panther the other day just cause I didn't even put it together that, like, it was his anniversary, and I watched it and I was just like, "This is just so good." It's probably my most rewatchable just cause, like,
Mhm.
it's so separate from the universe too, so it doesn't have to, like, tie into anything. It's
Yeah.
its own thing, and he's great. Yeah, it's just sad, but, he has so much great work, and I think if we ever do another Marvel's Avengers movie club, I think the next one we should do is Chadwick, just because 'cause it'd be great to talk about some of his other work too, if you're
Yeah,
down
for
for that.
sure. And
Um,
it would force me to watch Miss Rainey's Black Bottom.
Ma Rainey, yeah, you were
Oh,
close.
sorry.
That's fine. She is a miss. That's fine. But yeah, it would be a good excuse for me to rewatch that and watch maybe some other movies that I haven't seen. One that was produced, I believe, by the Russo brothers that he did, the 99 Bridges or something like that,
Oh,
whatever it was called,
21
21
Bridges.
Bridges. Whenever there's a movie with like a number in it, forget it.
You're just like 99.
Like 700 Jump Street. What is it? Anyway, no, I know
Close,
that one.
close.
There are two of those, so I have a 50-50 shot
Yeah,
of getting that right.
700 Jump Street and 701 Jump Street.
Right, exactly. So the separating from the sad stuff, we're now moving on to the more happy stuff, and we did get we finally got a Spider-Man trailer,
We
Kelsey.
did.
We finally got it. I figured that was going to be your news. It's my news, so
Yeah.
let's just talk about it.
I mean, there's no bigger news right now than this
Yeah,
Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, so
yeah, it's just it's everywhere. Like TikTok, the week leading up to it, because there was rumors that it was going to debut at CinemaCon, which it did. And people were like, "Well, it's just going to be for the CinemaCon audience." But does that mean that Sony's going to drop it the next day or two after
mhm.
CinemaCon? But then, of course, one of the visual effects guys leaked it on his phone. So it was a recording of a recording on his phone. It was hilarious. I didn't watch it, but I saw like the screenshot of the phone recording. It was just so dumb. So people had already seen it, so then they were like, you know what? We dropped it on CinemaCon, but everyone's seeing it anyway, so like let's just drop it
Oh my
right away.
god.
That was crazy because it was a crazy series of events. I was watching Bachelor in Paradise, and then everyone's just like, "Oh, it's up," and I'm like, "Wow, CinemaCon just started a half hour ago." Okay, so I guess they're doing it. Um, Kelsey, your thoughts on this Spider-Man No Way Home trailer? I feel like it's just
Listen,
become one word at this point. Spider-Man No Way Home. It
Spider-Man
rolls
No
off
Way
the
Home.
tongue.
Yeah. I mean, I texted you immediately, you sent me the link from Twitter. I watched it. I was still kind of skeptical because I get so easily convinced that so many fans edit and put together quote unquote
Right,
trailers. Then
right.
I get so I'm like, oh my god, this is it. And then I'm watching and I was like, wait, these are clips from movies I've seen. This is not it. And then it says in the fine print fan made trailer. And I'm like, oh, I've been bamboozled. So I was even hesitant to believe that this was the trailer, and it was. And my immediate reaction, I mean, I just was kind of slightly disappointed that
Okay.
he was, once again being aided by like a quote unquote father figure or a mentor of some kind, that being Doctor Strange. I obviously watched it like a few times before
Yeah.
recording this, and obviously like for myself, just to like, really wrap my head around it. And you know what? I'm excited. I'm excited.
Mhm. I think the beauty. I know you're not as in love with them as I am. At least not the actor who played him, but the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, the Tobey Maguire ones. The
Mhm.
reason why I love those so much is that his father figure is Uncle Ben,
Mhm.
and Uncle Ben is already not his father. It's his like next father that became his father figure, and then he dies like maybe a third of the way through. And from that point on, for the whole trilogy, he then has to like kind of find his own footing and become his own person and kind of take control of his own life. And we
Right.
see a little bit like Norman Osborn and Doc Ock, like the villains are kind of that, but like they're villains, so there's obviously an arc to that. The thing about these movies in the MCU is it was like the first one was all Tony, and that's why I've always said it's a Spider-Man and Iron Man movie. It's not a Spider-Man movie. And
Mhm.
then the second one, they finally, it's more of him now on his own now that Tony has died, and that's why I like it more, is because I think I like seeing him when he is just on his own. Obviously, there's that influence. They always keep talking about Tony, but because he's not there, it's more of Peter having to like kind of just become his own person. And Mysterio was kind of like that, guiding figure, but again, he's the villain, so it makes a little bit more of it. It's more of an interesting choice. But now it looks like Spider-Man 3, it's gonna be just Doctor Strange filling that role that Tony was, so I feel like we're
Right.
going back now.
Yeah.
The Spider-Verse stuff also, like, I'm very excited for, all the different possibilities it brings, but also, I just kinda want Tom to just have his own movie, to do his own thing
Oh,
to an
so you
extent.
finally agree with me.
No, I've always thought that. I always thought
Okay.
that was the weakness of Spider-Man: Homecoming. You love Spider-Man: Homecoming more than I do. I've always said the worst part of that movie is the fact that it's an Avengers movie first, and they kind of
Sure.
like, it's too much of the outside influence. It's not just like you can't just have your neighborhood Spider-Man. Um, but I'm still excited. You where you are coming from is like you don't want to see Andrew or Toby at all. I still want to see them, but I hope it's not
Okay.
too much of an overcrowding. I hope they still give him his moment to shine because I think he's a good casting choice.
Yeah.
So I agree with you in the aspect of like I want him to have his own time to shine, but I am still like I can't not get giddy of the fact that like I saw the Green Goblin, the little pumpkin bombs and Doc Ock's like arm, and then his entrance, his grand entrance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts because you are not as fond on the Raimi Spider-Man movies as I am, and it could be like just like what we grew up with.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
but I'd like to hear your thoughts just on this trailer and the premise and all that.
Well, I broke down like the trailer kind of
Yeah,
shot by
let's
shot.
do it.
So let's go through it. So we start with MJ and Peter talking on a roof, laughing about the ridiculous rumors about Peter's abilities that, these news sources are coming up with. We see Peter getting questioned by police. He said saying that he did not kill Mysterio. It was the drones. And he was like, right. And they're like, right, but don't you own the drones? So,
Mhm.
he's clearly got to get himself out of a sticky situation. Um, Peter says it's putting okay, so his whole issue with the fact that his identity is now being revealed is not just for himself, but also other people in his life are now at
Right.
risk. His Aunt May, MJ, Ned, like all these people are
Happy.
being
You see
affected.
that shot of Happy? Yep.
Exactly. Oh, we'll get there. I wrote down that shot.
I'm sure you did.
Um, so he decides to turn to Doctor Strange for help. For some reason, when we are in Sanctum, it is snowing. There has been a blizzard. Doctor Strange is in a like big, like
Parka, yeah.
fluffy, yeah, parka with his cape attached to the parka, which
It's a
I
good look.
thoroughly
It's a
enjoyed,
good look, yeah.
actually.
I think it's just a choice. I think he's like, "You know what? Like, let's make it cool in here," because Wong's going out to, like, ski or whatever. It's like, I think they just like the atmosphere, it's winter
Yeah,
time
maybe it
because
was
it
for.
is a Christmas movie, supposedly. Like,
Let
it's
me.
coming out on Christmas, so
It's coming out. Isn't it coming
around
out?
Christmas, not on Christmas,
Okay.
but, like, it's the Christmas season.
They keep
Yeah.
saying, like, this Christmas, and I'm like, "Isn't it, like, December 17th
Yeah,
this
that's like
movie's
the
coming
Christmas
out?"
because technically the way the release schedule works, like that's like the Christmas weekend. Anyway,
Sure,
but like,
sure.
and we'll talk a little bit about like a specific Christmas movie that this feels very much like,
Okay.
just the premise. But yeah, it has that wintry vibe, and I think they're really trying to.
I
Really
see where
go
you're
for that.
going with that
You know what I
Christmas
mean?
reference.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you know what
We'll
I'm
talk
talking
about that in a second.
about.
So then we see shots of Peter kind of running through this, what is either a retirement home, a community center, like a soup kitchen almost type of place. He's wearing a black Spidey suit and he's not wearing his mask. Someone is pointing in the direction of where he should be running. So I can only imagine that this is some kind of chase sequence. Peter wants Doctor Strange to make it so Mysterio never revealed Peter's identity. And so we see Doctor Strange in the midst of him performing the spell. Before he does that, though, Wong does warn him. He says, Strange, do not do that spell. And he goes through his portal. And Doctor Strange does something that a lot of people view as very uncharacteristic, where he ignores Wong's warning and he just winks at Peter, like, yeah, we're going to do this spell. Let's just wait for him to go. So in the midst of him conducting the spell, Peter is like getting very nervous that the people in his life aren't going to remember like who he is. So Aunt May, Ned, MJ, she's like, MJ's not going to know like everything we've been through. Like his whole relationship is going to be reversed with MJ. And it kind of messes with Doctor Strange's groove a little bit conducting this spell. And then as soon as it's over, Peter just says, what just happened? Um, so something obviously goes wrong. At 222, we see Strange removes Peter from his physical body, the same way that Ancient One did to Hulk in Endgame. We
Yep.
see the Iron Spidey suit makes a comeback in this movie.
Right.
There's a shot of Happy in a car surrounded by snipers. And then we see, obviously, the Green Goblin laugh is heard in the background while one of the devices is seen rolling onto the street. And we hear Strange say, be careful what you wish for, Parker, before we finally get our Doc Ock reveal,
Yes.
him saying, hello, Peter.
Hello, Peter.
And I also
Oh,
had
so good.
I had two Easter eggs that I saw
Yeah.
in the trailer. So while there's a shot of him walking through what looks like an angry mob, there is a poster made of his face with the words "devil in disguise"
Oh
written
boy.
on it,
Oh
which
boy.
obviously like reminded us all about another devil
Oh
that we might
no.
have been talking about a
No,
few
no,
months
no.
ago.
No, no,
I
no.
didn't go there, but other people did. So I don't know I don't know
Oh
what to say
god.
about that. And I also saw a truck for the Daily Bugle scene at some point in the trailer, which is
Nice.
obviously the newspaper that JJ Jameson, that's his name, right?
J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah, J. Jameson. Yep.
J. Jonas Jameson
James
works
Jonah
for,
Jameson.
who
Yeah.
is obviously Peter's like antagonist, arch nemesis kind of guy. So yeah, so that was the trailer. Lots of
Yeah. What are
interesting stuff.
What are your thoughts on it though? Like, are you like excited? Are you
I am excited. I'm
okay?
excited because I really don't, and maybe I'm just biased because I don't want this to happen, but I really truly believe that Toby and Andrew will not be involved in this movie. Maybe they will be involved somewhere down the line because apparently Tom is making more than just a trilogy with this of a standalone films. Like he's
Hmm.
going to be making more Spider-Man films, it feels like. And maybe they'll be involved some way down the line, but I really, really hope that this kind of turns into Tom just figuring out how to take on all of these like villains
Villains.
from the multiverse like himself and like
Yeah.
maybe aided by Doctor Strange, but then also people are also suspicious of Doctor Strange role in all of this. They think that he's acting very out of character and they
Maybe he's
kind of don't
Mephisto.
trust him. And they, all right, you dropped
I'm
the
kidding. I'm kidding.
bomb, you
No,
ripped
I'm
the
kidding.
band-aid
I'm kidding.
off.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
that's what some people believe though, Dill. They really truly believe that he is like Mephisto. And I'm like,
The thing is,
are we gonna put ourselves through this again?
Marvel never really spoils huge plot points in their trailers. This seems like the most they've ever given away about a movie before going into it, which makes me feel like there's a lot we don't know that we're gonna know
Hmm.
find out. Like even Far From Home, it was almost like Mysterio was the hero in that trailer, and we know from the comic book lores he's not, and we know he ends up not being. But they didn't show that turn. They showed him in the positive light of like the "watch out, I've got this," and then it was him doing this. Like
Right, of
I
course.
think I think Marvel knows better than to like say like, oh, this is what it is. This is what you're getting. Like,
No, for sure.
yeah, I think people just read into it too much, which is a good thing for like this kind of stuff where people want to like watch like YouTube videos about people theorizing. But like in actuality, it is what it is, and I think the reason why movies sometimes do poorly. What's up? What's up?
No, I just keep hearing noises outside my basement window.
Oh,
But
maybe
I
it's like the wind.
Maybe. I honestly think it's just like the garbage men.
Gotcha.
Oh, it's someone putting recyclables. I thought it was
Gotcha.
thunder. I was like, "This is the most intense thunder I've heard in a while," because it
Yeah, it
just
is.
sounded, like, so, like, clashy and, like,
As someone who is
startled
literally
me
a
a little
few
bit.
miles away, there is no thunder right now. I am literally looking at the thunder.
Literally, like, not even a
Um,
few miles away, like 1.
like, probably a mile away. Anyway, though, like, I think the thing with some movies, especially like big franchises, is people get their expectations up for what they want it to be. I think it's the reason why the Star Wars movies didn't always get the best reception is because
Mm,
people thought it had to go this way or that way. Even the original Star Wars, like the second movie, there's a big twist. I'm sure you know of it, but I won't spoil it because it's Star Wars and you still haven't seen it. But there's a big twist about a character being someone's other, some relation to some other character, and it's people didn't like the twist back then because it wasn't the way they envisioned it. But like I think
mm,
over time some of those movies will like start to grow on people. So I think people theorizing so much, they're bound to be disappointed. That's why I don't want to get my hopes up for Toby or Andrew because I don't
yeah.
want that to be the thing where like the credits roll and everyone's like, "Wait, what? Where were they?" And then it's like you totally just disregarded the whole movie you just saw. Um the parallel I saw though was It's a Wonderful Life, which is interesting
Yes.
because it's that whole idea of what if I was never born or what if I didn't
Mhm,
exist, and now here it's like what if I was never Spider-Man or never Spider-Man to everyone else, what if no one else knew. And I
mhm.
think that's a very interesting idea, especially if you're going to make it like a Christmas movie tying in that and like the winter stuff. But it'll be interesting. I do think we are gonna get a interesting movie no matter what. My
Mhm.
worry is that every movie now in like the next 2 years is gonna have to do with like the multiverse and stuff. And I almost kind of like the more self-contained stories, which is why I'm excited for Shang-Chi
Yeah.
next week. And why I love Black Panther so much, like stuff like that, where it's just like its own self-contained story. And that's always been my thing with the Spider-Man movies. Is it's almost feels like an Iron Man movie about another Iron Man character rather than a Spider-Man movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, the Doc Ock reveal was cool though. Like I was very excited to see that.
It would have been, like, so much cooler if Alfred Molina didn't, like, just outward like, say, like, a few months ago, like, "Yeah, I'm in it."
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well, I
know?
think also because he doesn't. He's just kind of like because he's more of a prestige actor. He's not like a franchise blockbuster guy. So like
Right.
he was probably like, yeah, I'm doing the new Spider-Man movie, not thinking anything of it. Like the
Yeah, that
fact
it
that
was
this
gonna
would
be, like,
it would
this
be this huge deal.
huge reveal.
Yeah, he was probably excited to tell people. He was like, dude, I'm doing Spider-Man again.
I just
But
think that this movie is a good opportunity to finally see, like, Tom's Peter stand on his own 2 feet, really, and, like, have to deal with, taking on all these different villains that
mhm,
he's never dealt with before.
yeah,
Do you
and
think
it.
that this
Oh,
is going to be like a Sinister Six type of thing? I mean, I
well,
know
that's what
some
I.
people might have seen the other kind of members of the Sinister Six throughout the trailer.
Well,
Obviously,
that's
I
what I was
only
gonna talk
pointed out
about.
the
Yeah,
most obvious ones, which was
I
Green Goblin and Doc Ock, but
I think either they're gonna do Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Electro, and then have it be like Toby, Andrew, and Tom, or it's gonna be Tom versus Green Goblin, Electro, Doc Ock, because we've confirmed Jamie Foxx has also confirmed that he's in it, and
right.
then three other villains, and make like the Sinister Six, and this is more of a Sinister Six movie. I think that's a much more interesting take because like
Mhm.
also we just got Spider-Verse, so like the whole idea of all these different Spider-Man coming together isn't as fresh and original anymore.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
So like it might be cooler if it's just like him facing all these different villains from different multiverses, because you could just have Doc Ock and Green Goblin show up and just recast them, but I think they're so iconic that they even recast Green Goblin in the newer Andrew Garfield movies, and it just wasn't the same. Dane DeHaan's great, but nothing was the same as Willem Dafoe. So you're
Mhm.
gonna have Willem Dafoe, Doc Ock, sorry, Alfred Molina, and
Jamie
Jamie Foxx
Foxx.
already. You can
Yeah.
rope in. I don't think you can get Jake Gyllenhaal back just because he is like definitively dead in this universe. But I think you
Mhm.
could get, Michael Keaton can come back. I think you can bring in even Tom Hardy's Venom. Maybe you could do a little crossover with Sony there if they were able to do those exchanges under wraps and people didn't realize more of the deal went through. It also depends on who Marvel owns versus who Sony owns, because that's a big thing too. Is like the reason why Vulture is a villain in Spider-Man Homecoming is because Vulture in the comics is an Iron Man villain, so they were able to
Mhm.
use his IP. They're not able to use like Venom and Craven and all these other Morbius and all these other Spider-Man villains from the Sony stuff, but maybe
Mhm.
because they were getting Green Goblin and Doc Ock, maybe they're going to be able to use like Venom or someone else. And there's even rumors Sandman because they saw some sand in the lightning
Like,
bolts.
yeah, yeah,
But again,
yeah.
the lightning was not blue though, so I don't know if that's Electro or if that's even another person.
Mhm.
So who knows? But I think there's a lot to think about, but at the same time, there's so much to think about that I don't want to get into, like what I think this movie's definitely going to be if it's not
Yeah.
going to be that, because I don't want to get my hopes up, and I also just don't want to like if it is what I think it's going to be, I don't want to spoil it for myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
obviously a lot of people think that Doc Ock's Hello Peter is directed at Tobey Maguire, being that
yeah,
that
because
would be the Peter Parker that he recognizes from his universe. So,
mhm, yeah, who
thoughts?
knows? That's a very good point. Maybe or yeah, I don't want to think about it because I don't want to, assume and then it because the thing is if I do guess what happens right, then sitting in theater I'm gonna be like, oh, I saw this coming. Then it becomes
Yeah.
predictable. And if I predicted something else, then I get my hopes up. So there's really no way to win
Yeah.
other than what I did. Just watch the trailer once, talk about it with you for 20 minutes, and then put it to bed. So
Yeah, yeah.
um
That's pretty much what I wanna leave
yeah,
it at
yeah.
as well because, I'm really not trying to, like, Mephisto this movie like we did WandaVision, so
Mephisto. Yeah. So it just sounded like a move. Like I'm gonna Mephisto. Like that's your signature punch or whatever. Anyway,
Mephisto, like
so
it's like a Pokemon.
so there's
Mephisto, go!
so there's obviously a lot of questions of like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Let's actually talk about what if something happens and something did happen in this latest episode of What If. That was
Mhm.
a weird segue. I worded it as best I could.
No, I thought it was
Kelsey,
great, Dill.
what is the I see we'll talk about the episode in a little bit, but like, what is
Okay.
the actual title of this? Oh,
This is What If Episode 3, What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes?
yeah, I think that's a good title, but like, I almost we'll get there when we get there because I have a better title that I
Okay.
think would work better, but maybe
Okay.
to not spoil some stuff, maybe they didn't want to call it that. But I think the
Okay.
what because the what if is usually like the thing that starts the chain reaction, whereas this episode is interesting because it kind of like takes place at a certain point and you see everything unfold, but then you find out something happened beforehand that set the motive for this villain. And that's kind of the what if of the
Mhm.
universe, I think. But we'll get there. Kels, tell us about this episode.
Oh,
Yeah, you
okay.
know what I mean? We'll talk about it though once we
Alright,
get there because I
so
think it makes more sense at the end. But yeah.
right. So the synopsis. Each of the Avengers are taken out one by a mysterious assassin before they are even formed.
Mm. And
So
yeah,
basically the whole premise of this episode is that it's 2011, 2012 area and the Avengers never even got to become the Avengers because someone gotten was a threw a wrench in Nick Fury's plans,
yeah.
which,
It
is one of the more shocking what if scenarios I think we've gotten out of the first 3 episodes.
I think this is kind of what I always wanted this series to be, and we've only
Mhm.
gotten 3 episodes, but like I hope they keep going down this road of like we're gonna really turn things upside down. We're gonna
Yeah.
really like make things crazy because like Thanos being good is like a cool thing, but like this is like next level. Like we're watching Iron Man die in the first 2 minutes. Like this
Mhm.
is very interesting, and I love how it plays out as like this almost like murder mystery of like you're trying to figure out who the killer is. It's like
Yeah.
it's a, like almost like a crime, you know, TV show, like almost like a CSI, you know.
For sure,
So
yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
So the episode starts with Nick and Natasha on their way to kind of have their recruitment meeting with Tony Stark. It's during the scene in Iron Man 2 when he's seen on the donut. He's obviously going through the fact that the device that is keeping him alive is also the thing that's killing him. So when Natasha gives him the antidote to help his problems, it's been tampered with and it ends up killing him right then and there in the diner,
Yeah,
which was like, I was like, oh my gosh,
during yeah,
right off the bat here, changes are being made.
I thought at
Um,
first I was like, oh, maybe it's because like they couldn't get Robert Downey Jr., so they wanted to kill him off early to then make it
mm,
about like Bruce and Clint. But no, it just keeps
no,
going.
it just
It
like
just
keeps
keeps
going.
yeah.
We really hit the ground running with this one. If Natasha is voiced by Lake Bell, not Scarlett
Okay.
Johansson, and
Yeah.
Tony is voiced by Mick Wingert, not obviously
McWingert,
not Robert Downey Jr.
not
Um,
McLovin.
and if you are no, not McLovin,
McWingert. It looks.
Mick
I know
Wingert.
it's probably spelled like Mick, Wingert, but you said it. I thought of like a McWingert,
Oh, you
like a
think it was like his
McChicken.
whole name? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
like MC Wingert.
No, his first name is Mick, Mick, and then Wingert is
I
his
got you.
last name.
Yeah, I got it. Whew,
Oh,
it's
that's
early.
funny
It's
though.
early. It's early for me. I woke
Um,
up an hour ago. Whew.
Fun fact, if you're a New Girl fan, Lake Bell plays one of the women that Nick Miller dates. I think it's in season 2. Her name is
Oh,
Shane.
yeah.
She's
Okay.
from the
Yeah.
bar, and it's like during that episode where Jess saw him naked and he's like going through all that like self-consciousness
Okay.
now.
Yeah. Oh,
So
okay. Interesting.
that's who voices
I was gonna say
Natasha.
I have not been very a big fan of these like voice actors who've stepped in. It's a hard job, but like I think
Yeah, for sure.
when you have Samuel L. Jackson doing Nick Fury and you
Right.
have like Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, and it's just like as soon as they start talking, you're like, yep, it's them. It just becomes very obvious. Either I think they either had to do all of them the same or all of them new cast because it's like
Sure,
it's
sure.
very and I get how they couldn't and they have the opportunity to use Samuel L. Jackson like Mark Ruffalo and stuff. They're gonna like obviously,
Mhm.
but it does very much show for me at least where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not Scarlet. But you know,
I
it was a
thought
good
that
performance. Yeah.
she did a fairly good job because I feel like, these voice actors are stepping into these roles like having to do a combination of like their take on the role and then also like kind of doing an impression at the same
Right.
time.
No, it's a tough job,
So,
and I don't envy them. So
I think she did a fairly good job. I mean, we didn't hear much from Mick because Tony died in the first like 2 minutes of this episode,
yeah.
but I think it was fine for what he
hmm
gave us.
Well, Thor is also different, right?
Oh, I didn't look into Thor.
I think
I
Thor is different
forgot.
because it's not, I don't think it's Chris Hemsworth that, but he was also so short lived. Like he barely talked.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna try to Google this at some other time to
Yeah, it's
double
fine.
check.
Well, the next murder I think is Thor, right? Is that
So
what's next on the
Nat,
list?
okay. Well, Nat is taken by Shield.
Right.
And I just wanted to point out this scene because this truck scene where Nick is like, "Oh, I'm betting that you get out of these handcuffs because like you're a trained assassin, like you're trained to get out of handcuffs." And this whole truck scene was giving me the same energy as the elevator scene in
Very much, yeah.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier, so I very much appreciated just the stillness of her sitting in handcuffs and
hmm
then just like mayhem breaking out in like a
Yeah.
matter of seconds. I dropped my pencil. I have to pick it up. There's a new one right next to me. Never mind. Okay, moving on. So now
Do you
we're
need your
in.
pencil? You already took your notes.
Well, I like to jot stuff down while you're
Okay.
talking so I
Yeah.
don't lose
Okay.
my train of thought.
Gotcha.
And it just makes
Important.
me feel more professional if I'm holding a
Good.
pencil in my
Well,
hand. I
I'll
feel
just
like
hold.
I'm
I'll hold the closest utensil to me. It's a Sharpie.
all right, even better.
It'll be
Green. It's
permanent.
it's Hulk green. I love that. So now we're in New Mexico. And the next step that does happen is Thor and Hawkeye releases an arrow and takes down Thor. And Nick
Fucking
Fury's like,
Hawkeye.
"What the hell did you do? I told you
Fucking
to hold your
Hawkeye.
fire." And
Fucking
he's
Clint.
and you know what? He swears that it wasn't him. He swears that
Wasn't
he did
me.
not shoot. So Barton is taken to a cell. I also wrote down, you're telling me a single arrow took down Thor? Like he's been
Right.
like he went toe to toe with the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok and like d- made it kind of like unscathed. And
hmm
now all of a sudden, like a single arrow. I guess if it went right through his heart, then yeah, that's probably
Yeah.
a deal breaker
I feel like he's
then.
got a lot
But
of muscle though, but I don't know. I don't know how bodies work when you're
and
muscular like that.
I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know how bodies work when you're a demigod from another planet. So Bart is obviously taken into custody because they have no idea what happened. And while he's in his cell, he is also killed. It's kind of mysterious how he dies. Coulson theorizes that it might have been like a cyanide capsule that he kind of took his own life because he realized that he was in
hmm
like jeopardy or something.
Yeah.
But Nick
Great to see
Fury's
Colson
like,
back though. Colson.
yeah,
Love,
love
love
Coulson,
Colson.
love
Love
Clark
Colson.
Gregg.
Love ya.
Yeah, but always enjoy seeing him back involved. But Nick Fury's like he wouldn't have taken his own life. He has a wife and kids, like he wouldn't have
hmm
gone willingly,
Right.
essentially. So now we're in Virginia, where Nat goes to talk and get kind of a secondhand opinion about the device that killed Tony Stark with Betty Ross. Betty Ross is not voiced by Liv Tyler,
No.
who she's played by
I
in the
figured.
Incredible Hulk film. She is voiced by Stephanie Panicello. I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Hmm.
Um,
Maybe she's Italian. Maybe it's Panicello, but I don't know.
I don't
Is
think
it a C
so.
or an S?
No, it's a C. No,
Hmm.
it's an S.
Oh, then it is Panicello.
Panicello.
Like penicillin. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay, so then we cut to a scene of Phil Coulson driving to, the Shield kind of headquarters, it looks like, and Loki comes to Earth for vengeance. So the events of the Avengers are still kind of like playing out, except he's not coming to Earth. Well, he comes to take it over, but he's coming to take it over to, avenge the death of his brother. In his own way, Loki is an Avenger in this
Yeah, true, true.
universe.
And again,
So,
Tom Hiddleston, great, like another voice that is just instantly recognizable and instantly
mhm.
iconic, and
Yeah,
a
I was
good get for this series for sure.
yeah, absolutely. He's just incredible in everything that he does. So then we're back in Virginia where, the next death that happens is Hulk, which is a pretty gruesome death because
Oh
he
my gosh.
literally just explodes. Like we just see him getting bigger and bigger, bigger, like someone's like pumping him up through
Yeah,
air. And I was
it's
like,
the
is
Willy
Hulk?
Wonka. It's Willy Wonka. It's the blueberry girl. She,
No. Yeah,
like
exactly.
literally,
He
shit.
had the gobstopper or whatever it was because he just blows up
It's
and then he's just a cloud of green and I'm like, "Oh, that is gruesome. Imagine
so
having
sad.
to wipe Hulk off of you. That's gross."
There's some gamma.
Um General Ross is voiced by Michael Patrick McGill.
Okay.
So that's another recast we saw. So then we cut to Natasha like trying to get through into the Avengers Initiative program in a public library in Virginia because she's like, I have to get to the bottom of this. At this point, she already knows that Clint Barton is dead. So now she, has some more skin in the game. She wants to avenge her friend's death. We see that the people who've accessed the files of the Avengers Initiative recently are as follows. It's Coulson, Fury, Maria Hill, Janet Van Dyne, and Alexander Pierce. Obviously, Alexander Pierce, we know in our universe, turns out to be an agent of Hydra. But Janet Van Dyne is a woman who Natasha says, how did a woman who died 2 years ago access the database? So that's clue number one as to
And
who
she
we're
has an
dealing
X on
with.
her face too because
Yeah,
she is dead. Yeah.
exactly. So that gives us a clue as to who our main villain might be in this episode. And then Fury, and then Nat dies. She
Yeah.
is
She gets beat up
she's
by midair
by
by
an
something.
invisible man. I was like, this
Yeah.
person's invisible. Like this is crazy.
He's just tiny as fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. So now with the loss of Tony, Clint, Thor, Bruce, and now Natasha, Fury's like, my whole team's gone, and Phil's like, well, you're still left. And he's like, you know what, I'm not the only Avenger left. He goes to his car, he pulls out the beeper from the 90s that we know uh contacts Captain Marvel.
My girl.
But while doing that, he realizes that Natasha's last message to him, it's hope, it's all about hope, is about Hope Van Dyne.
Yeah. I
So
knew that
then
as soon as they said hope, I was like, oh, it's because the subtitles did capitalize hope. So I was like,
oh yeah. So I didn't
okay.
watch it. I did my rewatch with the subtitles. I never watch anything with the
Gotcha.
subtitles because those drive me crazy. I'm one of those
Hmm.
people that like can't because
Okay.
I'm distracted the whole time by the words at
Right.
the bottom of the screen and I don't see things.
Hmm.
So sorry, but I am one of those.
No, that's
Um
good because you didn't know because as soon as I saw the capital H, I was like, oh, hope. Because also they just
right.
showed Janet, so I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh. And at first I thought Hope was the one beating her up and she was the Wasp. That's because I was like,
Mm,
oh, that's why she was invisible because she was so tiny. But then
right.
I find out it was Hank. So that was a reveal. But like it was sorry to spoil your synopsis, but like there
No,
was
it's fine.
but in that moment I was
We
like,
all
oh,
know where this is
I was
going.
like, oh, Hope is avenging her mom's death. That's cool.
Mm.
But we'll get there in a second.
So then Nick goes to Loki and is like, I need to talk to your boss, or the giant metal thing. He says, I need to talk to your boss. Where then we cut to a shot of Hope Van Dyne's gravestone. And now
Hmm.
we've learned that not only is Janet dead, but also Hope Van Dyne is also dead. And we find out that she was killed on a mission outside Odessa, Ukraine. Um, which if you don't know, Odessa, Ukraine, I looked into this to see if this had any connection to anything, but Odessa, Ukraine is mentioned by Natasha in the first Avengers movie, where she's talking about how she went to get like a nuclear engineer or something along those lines, but then someone like got in the way of the mission. And this is the whole conversation that she has with Bruce in where's he hiding? Calcutta,
Yeah.
I think. This is the whole like conversation they're having in the shack, like, oh, like the mission was compromised, and the person who was getting to the nuclear engineer shot through me to kill him. And now she has like that scar on her stomach, and she says something like, and now I can't wear bikinis or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's the only other time Odessa, Ukraine is mentioned. So I'm wondering if maybe in this
That's
universe, Natasha wasn't put on the mission. Maybe Hope Van Dyne was, and things didn't go as well for Hope as they did for Natasha.
Well, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It's almost as if this episode is what if Hope Van Dyne died in Odessa or whatever it's called. What is
Mm,
it called?
Odessa, Ukraine.
Odessa. That because that's the what if of this episode. It's
Mhm.
not. I mean, it is what if these people die, but it's the event that changes the other series of events is not the death of Iron Man, or it's
Right.
it's Hope's death, and that's why I was almost like, oh, like I thought the whole like series was like there's one event and it changes the rest of the course of history, the T'Challa thing, and then like the Captain Carter being the one to take the serum. Here it's like the event is we don't see the event that changed everything, because Hope's death is really what sets this whole series of events, which is why I was almost like wishing that maybe the first scene, almost like a post almost like a pre, like what do we call it? A cold open, could have been like on Odessa. You see like someone gets shot and you don't know who it is, but at least like that kind of sets it up to be like the course of events that would happen, because I think it just was kind of like, wait, how is Hope dead in this universe? Like, and she survived in the other one, because like
Mhm.
that's the thing that changed, that set this course. You know what I mean?
Well, and then you could also take it back even further, Dale, by saying, like, what if, like, Hank didn't have a falling out with Shield? Because the whole
Mm,
reason why Hope doesn't work for Shield to begin with is because Hank and, whoever it was from the cold open of Ant-Man had that falling out of
mhm,
them not being able to work together. And then,
true.
they like shut down his research and said that like he wasn't working fast enough. So that was the whole reason why, he didn't want Howard Stark getting a hold of his PIM particles and all of his work. So that could also be the what
Yeah.
if, like what if Hank Pym still, like, I don't know,
Mhm. Yeah, I just wish they had like
But I
given us
I
some
understand what you're saying
little
though.
inkling earlier on, because then when it was like, oh wait, Hope died, and that's why I was like, oh wait, we didn't like
Yeah.
see that, so like that makes sense, but it's also like that's like a huge event, like that's a big twist, like because Hope is very well alive at this point in the
Yeah.
real universe, so I was just like, oh okay, but I mean it doesn't detract from me, but like and also you don't want to spoil the big twist, because
Right.
if you had just said what if Hope died that day, like no, you're not gonna say that, but like what if yeah, yeah, it's hard to promote an episode like that and
No,
keep it a mystery if you do reveal it. So,
No, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Honestly, when I first watched this episode, like the whole reveal felt kind of random to me
hmm
because I was like, I just feel like this is so removed from like what's been going on. But I guess
hmm
like you're avenging your daughter's death. That would make you want. He even says, so obviously, going along with my like
yeah,
breakdown here, Hank is revealed to be the big villain of this episode.
hmm
And he says to Fury, like, I wanted you to hurt as much as I did. So I took out like all these like random people you didn't know, kind of thing. Like, I feel like the only person he'd be like really disappointed on losing would be like Clint, Natasha, because those are the two people that he works the closest with. But like
hmm
killing Thor, he says, was just like, oh, I knew you would have recruited him like right away.
right,
First of
getting them
all,
before he can get them. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But I'm like, none of this is equivalent to losing a
hmm
daughter, a
yeah.
family member,
But
I
at the same
feel.
time, like this is what if is, and it's like being
Mhm.
able to just be like, we're gonna do it and throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. So,
So obviously Hank tries to go after Nick Fury and is like, you're, next on my list. You're the last one I got to get rid of. And, Fury is putting up a really good fight. Hank isn't laying a single punch. It doesn't matter if he's full size or if he's, ant size. Nick is killing it in
yeah.
battle. He does like a whole like aerial like cartwheel over Hank and he's like, "Wow, like you're really spry for someone who
Oh,
works in a corner
love
office."
it.
To which, at some point during the fight, Nick says something like, "I don't give a damn about any of them." to which I then realized I'm like, oh, this is for sure Nick Fury
Loki.
just or Loki disguised as Nick Fury.
Mm-hmm.
As we find out like later when, obviously a multitude of Nicks kind of appear around Hank. At this point, we do realize this is the god of mischief. And instead of just taking Hank into custody in Asgard as he promised, Loki decides that, he's going to extend his stay on Midgard. And then we kind of cut to him going to the UN in New York and saying, like, great, you're all under my control now. I'm here to like fulfill your destiny, which is to be ruled. And this entire episode, I was wondering, I'm like, where is Steve? He is an Avenger as well. Did he just die in the ice in this universe?
Yeah.
Like he didn't like his body wasn't reserved. Like he just like completely got murked by like the crash into the ice. Like I'm like, where is he? So we get this outro that kind of answers both the questions of where's Cap, which is he's still in the ice and Nick just found him. And another captain shows up, Captain Marvel, and
Mm-hmm.
she's like, great, so where's the fight? And she is voiced very obviously not by Brie
Yeah.
Larson. Even through this one line, she is her voice actor is Alexandra Daniels,
Nice.
um, who did not sound like Brie Larson at all. And
Yeah.
that was our episode. So we're left kind of on a hopeful note of like, oh, he found Steve Rogers and now also Captain Marvel is there. So maybe they have a chance of overthrowing Loki. But it was definitely jarring to just watch each member of the team kind of be
Yeah.
taken out throughout this journey.
And I like that. Like, I like how this is like, because the dial is reset every single time, we're able to like experiment with these kind of stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, would it be cool to make like Hank Pym the villain? Because like, why not? It
Yeah.
was just very interesting. And is that Michael Douglas who played Pym? It was,
Yes,
right?
it is
Okay, good.
Michael
I was gonna
Douglas.
say that one. Honestly, I thought it was different, but maybe because he's older than he was when he did Ant-Man, and when you're in the voice booth, sometimes you take some liberties. Like Sebastian Stan was definitely like giving it like a little bit more in the voice booth than he did in the actual movie in terms of like just vocal energy. But so it's fun to see some of these actors do that, like
Yeah,
kind of just like you know just to put a little twist on their own characters. But
absolutely.
yeah, I think this is my favorite episode yet because of how different it was and how unique it felt and all that stuff and just how it had me guessing and actually wondering what was going to happen next, opposed to just kind of watching out the kind of the same types of stories play out just with different characters and different roles. It was just really interesting to see like a complete overhaul of what we already knew.
Yeah, I definitely think that they started the series on a much tamer note. Um,
Hmm.
and are they're getting more extreme because eventually like we're gonna see Avenger zombies. So I feel like they
Yes.
kind of had to like weed us into like this idea of
Right.
like, oh, this is where we started with Captain Carter, and now this is where we're at 2 episodes later with what if the Avengers just simply never existed.
Yeah.
I'm trying
And I cannot
desperately to
wait for the
find out.
zombies. Cannot
I'm
wait for
sorry.
that.
I'm trying
That's
desperately to
okay.
find out who is voicing Thor in this episode because it is
Oh,
going to bother me.
I don't even know
Frank
if he talks, does he? Oh, he does.
I think he does. Frank Grillo
Okay.
voices
It's Crossbones. Yep.
yeah, Brock Rumlow. Oh my god. They're telling me like everyone but Thor.
Australian guy.
General Ross, Lady Sif, Jamie Alexander
Jimmy
voices Lady
Alexander, yeah, she's
Sif,
back.
Carol Danvers. Maybe he doesn't say anything. Thor and his majestic.
Maybe.
Oh my god, he doesn't have a credit, so maybe Thor doesn't say anything in this episode. I
Well,
thought
it's
at
not
least
it's
he
not Chris Hemsworth. It's not Chris Hemsworth. I know that for
well,
sure. But
anyway, I had some Easter
anyway,
eggs that I noticed
sorry.
throughout this episode. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, that was like
let
really
us
gonna
know.
bother
Let us
me.
know. That's
So,
okay.
uh, okay, so when when Nat and Bruce are, in that hallway together with like all those windows in that facility
Hmm.
and all the tanks and snipers and General Ross shows up after he is shot by what we think is a sniper. Nat says to him, "I will get you out of this, I swear on my life," which is something that she
Hmm.
actually says to him in the actual Avengers.
Yeah.
Because then he freaks out and is like, "Your life," like, "Ugh," and then he hulks out in the helicarrier. And Nat, we see cartoon Nat fly out of the window once all the shooting starts, and they totally have her land in the iconic Black Widow superhero pose, which just made me think,
Of
obviously, of
course.
Yelena and uh, Black Widow, obviously, which is still
Mhm.
fresh on the brain. Um,
Yeah.
Another Easter egg, Coulson's password to his, to the
Yes.
Avengers Initiative is hashtag Steve, I heart Steve 0704. I'm like, that is very much overkill, but that is certainly a password I don't think anyone would guess.
Yeah. Well,
Because
and you know,
there's
7/7/4, July 4th is Independence Day, which is America. So,
right,
like, Steve
of
in America,
course.
yeah, that's a cool little,
So,
nod.
yeah, I really like that a lot. And then lastly, I don't know if they did this intentionally because it's a very loose connection and I totally get that this is a line that could be said by anyone in this universe, but Hank does say to Fury, quote, "You took everything from me," which made me think of obviously the iconic line that Wanda says to Thanos in Endgame, "You took everything to me," to which he responds, "I don't even know who you are." But those were all like, oh, and also I forgot to mention that at 12 minutes 47 seconds, this one's a little bit more obvious, but the illustration of the Watcher kind of looming in the sky is also in the
Yeah, I love
background
that.
during that
Yeah.
moment. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was all the Easter eggy things that I noticed in this episode. Did you find out who
When
voiced
you
Thor?
brought up Wanda, you reminded me.
Oh,
I
okay.
did not, I looked, I could
Oh,
not figure it
okay.
out. So when you were talking about Wanda, I thought of another Easter egg that we didn't even talk about when we were talking about the trailer. Do you remember the date that was on her calendar in WandaVision that she had the heart
Right.
on the calendar?
Yes.
It
Yes.
was
August
August
23rd.
24th. 24th, no?
23rd.
23rd. Oh, maybe what was 23rd? Yes, because Bachelor in
23rd
Paradise is Monday.
because
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that is the day we got the Spider-Man trailer. So I guess maybe that was always in the cards to release the
either
trailer
a
on that
very
day.
happy coincidence or Marvel is just that strategically planned ahead. So,
Mhm. I think they would have either, like, been like if they were gonna release a Spider-Man trailer earlier, they would have been like, "Well, let's wait for the second Eternals trailer till the 23rd." Like, they probably were like, "We're gonna drop something cool on the 23rd just 'cause," you know?
yeah.
Um, anyway, I forgot to mention that earlier. Next week, that was our recap of What If. We'll have to take a pause on What If 4, and that'll be on the next week. On the 13th, you will get What If episodes 4 and 5, because next week, we will come with you. We will bring to you a Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings review. That's right. We will do what we did last time. We will kind of not break it down scene by scene because there's going to be a lot of scenes. We're going to instead just talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and then a spoiler section at the end. So, kind of what we did with Black Widow. We're going to start just talking about the things we liked about the movie, some of the things we didn't like, and then, of course, diving into some of the juicy spoilers, if any, because I heard it is very separate from the MCU as a whole. Like, it feels like its own thing, which is good. Sometimes I hate how it just everything needs to connect back to the MCU. It doesn't always need to. So I really I'm looking forward to that. It's been getting some good word of mouth. I'm excited. We're gonna go see it Thursday. Record it to you probably either Thursday night or Friday while it's still fresh in our brains as we
Mhm.
sit in silence on the way home because that was the whole thing with Black Widow is we saw it,
Yeah.
we were recording it right after we didn't talk about the movie. We were just like, well, we're gonna save it for the podcast. But here it'll be a little easier because we'll be able to like go our own like places. We don't have to like be forced to just sit in silence.
Yeah.
But we'll be seeing
A
it
train
Thursday.
ride of
We'll
silence back to
yeah,
your apartment.
we'll we'll be seeing it and then we'll give you a review. And we hope we like it. If one of us doesn't, don't hate us. But if we both love it or hate it, that'll be it.
I've heard very good things about
Yeah, me
Shang-Chi,
too.
so I'm excited.
Hmm.
A lot of like TikTokers that I follow that do like Marvel reviews are like
Hmm.
being invited to like watch the movie
Hmm.
before it comes out, and they're saying very good things about it.
Nice.
So I'm excited.
Nice. And I mean, this has nothing to do with Marvel, but I did just get my approval for some early screenings of some other big movies that I'll be seeing before they come out. The big one is Dune. I will be getting to see Dune a lot earlier than everyone else, which is very exciting. So I will have a Dune review for you like pretty early before it comes out, which is like the first review I'm getting to do before a movie comes out, which is very exciting. I haven't not gotten to do that yet.
Whoa, nice,
We're making
Dill.
steps, we're making strides. But yeah, that has some Marvel actors in it, so I figured I'd bring it up. It has Josh Brolin and Dave Bautista at least, and Zendaya. So there you go. Anyway, Kelsey, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me still desperately trying to figure out if Thor has a voice actor. I'm now on IMDb and he still
It's
doesn't
not
have a
on.
credit.
That's where I looked. Yeah,
So it's hopeless. But you can find me on Instagram at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. You can find me on TikTok, Cause13, or you can subscribe to my very pathetic YouTube channel, Cause
it's
Productions.
not pathetic.
I
There's
mean,
some good stuff on
it's
there.
there's great stuff on there, but I am like I really have to get back into posting on that. So I will.
Right.
If I get like a mass ton of subscribers in a short amount of time, I will be much more motivated to do
You
that.
heard the
So
challenge, people. You heard it. Go do it. Go subscribe. You can find me at Dylan_Randazzo on Twitter, at Dylan Randazzo. Oops, sorry, 417 at TikTok. Sorry, I had like a mid yawn burp. I That happens. And then the Dill Pickle Movie Network here on YouTube. That's DYL. So many people are like, I can't find you, and they're searching up DILL Pickle. I'm like, no, not the herb, like my name. It's a play on. Never mind.
yeah.
Yeah, you can find movie reviews there. I just went through every single Best Picture nominee from 1939, which is 10 movies, which was a lot to talk about for one video, but we did it. Wizard of Oz review in that as well for Wizard of Oz fans. What else is happening on the channel? Big Brother stuff every week because Big Brother is getting fun. We're getting to the end game. Haha, Marvel reference.
We're in the
We're
end
in the
game
end game
now.
now. And this podcast every Monday. So check us out. It's going to be a lot of fun as we proceed into the fall. In the Oscar movie season, which means we're going to get some good Oscar movies too soon, too, including Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man. A lot of stuff coming this fall. But next week we'll be back with Shang-Chi trailer. Or not trailer, review. Haha. See you next time.